Okay. Hey, I am Pillo, and I work for the Presentation7 district, and I've been the chosen one. I'm kind of feeling very honored to be the lead on the first Healthy Watershed Initiative project in the state of Connecticut. I'll be doing this in cooperation with my coworkers and volunteers and the communities in this watershed. Eastern Connecticut Conservation District is one of 5 conservation districts in the state of Connecticut. Our name implies we're the one on the eastern side. So we represent 36 towns from Massachusetts to Long Island Sound and Rhode Island, and then 36 towns that way. The watershed we're working in involves 8 towns, 7 of them are district towns. So we're partnering with our sister district in North Central on this project, as well as many other people. So this we refer to as the Upper Natchaug Healthy Watershed Project. And what we mean by the Natchaug River, Upper Natchaug, is the part above Mansfield Hollow Lake, which is in Mansfield. So that's here. And that's the whole Thames watershed. So here, this is the outline of the Natchaug here. This is Mansfield Hollow Lake. This part down here is the lower Natchaug, and we've already written a watershed-based plan and started implementing the projects to clean up a bacteria issue there. So this is a very, very large watershed. The entire watershed is about 175 square miles, and upstream of Mansfield Hollow Lake is 165 square miles. So there's a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong, and the object of writing this plan is to prevent that from happening, because right now the water quality in Mansfield Hollow Lake is not impaired, to my knowledge. We followed up our project after working with the Nature Conservancy. Holly Drinker, if you know her, led a 8-town project in the Upper Natchaug watershed to do a conservation action plan where she looked at the resources, the stressors, and what follow-up activities were necessary in order to protect the watershed. And it was a very long timeline before they finally got 8 towns to sign an intermunicipal compact that they said, this is an important watershed and we will work together to protect it. So I was part of that process, very fascinated, learned a lot from Holly as she was going through this process. And then when the first Healthy Watershed Initiative opportunity came up through the 319 grant project, it was just a natural for me to want to follow up on her work and write a protection plan for this watershed. So why this one was chosen? Well, again, the DEEV went through their metrics and came up with this watershed as being a high priority for protection. It is a drinking water watershed. People in Willimantic and parts of Mansfield get their drinking water from the Willimantic Reservoir, which is just below Mansfield Hollow Dam. So we have an important job in protecting that water, drinking water quality. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. It is 75% forested, but it's not all permanently protected land. So as those towns grow, and they will grow, we want to make sure that we give them the tools to do it correctly, sustainably, and to preserve the characters, the high quality of this watershed. This is another document that DEEP put together. I think it's 2009. I can't read it. It is a study of 30 least disturbed watersheds in the state of Connecticut. And it's not surprising that 5 of those watersheds were in the Upper Natchaug watershed. So it, again, emphasizes this, and I will be using this information as I communicate to the towns of how special places they have. And a lot of sites were considered but rejected for some reasons, like this one we're already studying, somebody else is studying, we don't need to do it. And this one we couldn't study because we couldn't get there. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. trying to accomplish with this project is to map where all the streams and ponds and lakes are not polluted, and then get this information out to the municipalities. So that means collecting more data. We have some data, Tracy's talked about it, they did some sampling, we'll talk about that, of conditions now for nutrients. Last Green Valley Water Quality Monitoring Program has been out collecting a lot of data using citizen science and stuff. And we're going to use these tools to get out to talk to the communities about what's out there and hopefully get some of their citizens involved in this monitoring as well. Developing and conducting a community outreach campaign is going to be critical, because you never write a plan and say, here, do this. You work with the communities to develop the plan together, because when it's their idea, they're more willing to accept it. And then at the end of all this process, we're going to make a Healthy River Watershed implementation plan saying, okay, you need to, here's where the weaknesses are, these are the things we need to change to protect it. And at the end, we're also going to create a checklist for the towns to use as they're developing, to look at new development proposals to see how compatible it is with the plan, to make it simple for them, because plans can be lengthy, cumbersome, and most people glaze over. But if you said, does this plan do X? They can say yes or no. And that'll be available to people who are doing the development too. So when they're putting their development plans together, they say, oh, this is going to be something that's going to be a flag, so let me design this plan to accommodate that. We're also going to look for where we need strategic protection and anti-degradation measures in this watershed, and this is going to be a guidance, a roadmap for the different municipalities as they continue to grow over time. So we started out with what is the water quality condition. So the first thing I would go to is the DEEP, Integrated Water Quality Assessment Report, and these are the 2016 assessments, because that's the last ones that are available. There's already in GIS format, and you can see that they've been assessed for aquatic life use support as well as recreation. We do have some known problems with E. coli bacteria in the water. Mount Hope River's already got a matrix for addressing those sources of E. coli in that watershed. The lower this part of the Natchaug has not been addressed. And this down here is below Mansfield Hollow Lake. That's something that was in the lower Natchaug River watershed-based plan. Aquatic life support. We see a lot of green over here, one little piece of red here. But what I want to point out to people in the towns is we're looking at these maps is all these other areas are gray. That means we don't know what the water quality is. And get them to start thinking about water quality and how to address it and what their individual actions can do to that water quality in the areas where we don't have enough data. This is the preliminary results of those 2018 snapshot, the DEEP. There's 3 to 5 samples they did for different parameters, including nutrients. So I've kind of got that just by average. So it gives us some kind of idea of what the conditions are. And I'll be working with DEEP, who will be taking this data and making kind of an alternate TMDL. And from there, we can go out to the public and say, okay, we're below these thresholds. How do we keep it there? What things will impact that? And then if those are the things that impact, how do we not do it? Because we don't want to have impacts to the water quality. I mean, Mansfield Hollow Lake is really vulnerable to nutrient pollution. And then looking at Bantam Lake, that's not a very nice picture to have to say this is what your watershed looks like, just upstream of your drinking water intake. So working closely with the volunteer program at the Last Green Valley, oh yeah, I coordinate that too. I get to go out and pick the sites where we're going out to collect the data. So we've done E. coli monitoring in Mount Hope River. We've tracked down where the sources are, and we're working on addressing that as the district. We teach volunteers to do riffle bioassessments. Are you all familiar with the riffle bioassessment program? It's a volunteer program developed by DEEP. I'm getting blank stares. Okay, some people do. It's using aquatic macroinvertebrates as bioindicators of water quality, or as easier to say, it's the canary in the coal mine. These are insects that need really good water quality to survive, and if we find a good diversity of these insects in the water, then we can infer the water quality is good. And there's been a lot of statistics done at DEP to prove that this is a good method to get water quality data, but it's a lot of fun. Somebody here was you. Yeah, she's going to come out with us this year and do some sampling, and there's some other volunteers in the room as well that are going to help with this project. But we're going to go out and look at some of these headwater streams and determine what the water quality is and publicize the heck out of it. There's temperature data loggers. I've been gearing up for this project for a bunch of years, so I've been doing temperature data loggers looking for cold water streams because that's a good indicator of water quality, potential water quality health, and where we might find the good bugs because they're temperature sensitive in some cases. And I've even got some of the lakes in the Watershed this year started doing cyanobacteria monitoring using a very simple protocol. They collect a 3-meter water column sample with an integrated tube sampler, and they put it in a bottle and they bring it to me, and I have volunteers that will run it through a fluorometer, and we'll get an indication of how much phycocyanin, or the pigment in blue-green algae, is in the water. And it's kind of an interesting thing to do. Hopefully we're not going to find any big problems in these lakes. They shouldn't be. But I have another lake where we do have a problem. It's nice to compare, say, okay, don't become that lake. This is our target. We don't want to turn into this. So as part of this project, again, I'm not going to just go out and write a plan on my opinions. I'm going to get other people to make my opinions their opinions and bring it out of them. So we started with our first stakeholder meeting, and we've sent out a value survey to the stakeholders who are now sharing it with other people. We're going to be doing more community outreach at events like farmers markets and such to get more feedback to this project. And then we solicited ideas, and I know this is very hard to read because I guess the blue pen was running out of ink. But we said, what is a healthy watershed? We got people's ideas, and what are the threats? We're going to be working on that. And with the help of one of our volunteers, Gary, when I go over here, he put together a Facebook page called Naturally Natchaug, and it's just. We rolled it out, but it's a soft rollout. We haven't done a lot of populating it yet because I'm wrapping up a different project first. But we're going to be using it to heavily do social marketing. We also have an Instagram handle, which I haven't done Instagram yet, so I have to upgrade so I can remember what the name of the handle for that is. But anyway, we're going to be putting this information out there so that people know what's special about the watershed and what they can do to keep it special. So this is what we're starting now, and we're just beginning this project. Follow-up meetings, I have under contract to do at least 3 more meetings. So we will be rolling out that, no pressure. We're going to be rolling out the DEP alternate TMDL package in November, so we can start working on addressing what our targets are and how we're going to get there. And then we're going to have a working meeting to put together the first implementation plan, whatever our issues. I'll be doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And from that implementation plan, we're also going to draft a checklist for the towns to be using as they're growing. And then finally, at the end, we'll do a presentation on the final plan, get everybody's feedback, and hopefully get all the towns to sign on that they accept this plan, and they will adopt it into their own plans of conservation and development. So that's what I've got started. This is kind of in its infancy. We just rolled out the contract this summer. So I've got a lot of plans. I'm really looking forward to this. I've written a lot of watershed-based plans for doing remediation work, and this is the first time we've been able to take the approach that we are going to prevent the pollution beforehand, which makes a heck of a lot more sense. So thank you for listening.